Now let's look at the process that the IASB goes through in establishing a particular or in establishing or publishing standard, the processes that they go through in establishing or revising a particular accounting standard. The first one is that we have to identify a subject to be appropriate for revision or establishing of a new standard. A subject must be identified to be appropriate. So if you look at the initial standard for IFRS 4, it was that was insurance contract. It was provided in an ad hoc manner. The standard was not substantive, but later on a subject matter was identified to be appropriate for revision, which led to a substantive change of the subject matter that made the revision of IFRS 4 to IFRS 17 insurance contract. So the first step is that they have to identify a subject to be important or to be appropriate for revision or for the issuance of a new standard. Then the second step, so we look at the first step. We are looking at steps to the steps IFRSs are established. The steps IFRSs are established. The first one has to do with identification of the subject to be appropriate. The second one is that there must be a study of national rules and practices and exchange of views with national setters or national accounting setters. So rules must be established, must be studied, principles and practice must be also studied and exchange views with what? With national setters. Then three, they have to form an advisory council to advise the IASB on the matter concerned. So the three is that an advisory council will be formed which will advise the International Accounting Standard Board. And then three, there will be issue of the discussion paper of public comment. So they will issue every accountant or every jurisdiction play a key role in the establishment of a particular standard. And this is where the comment comes in. The discussion paper is issued for public comment so that if you have an accountant and you want to contribute to that effect, to the establishment of a particular standard, you can also bring in your input. But this is done through the national bodies, through the national accounting bodies. So if you go to the respective countries, the body responsible for accountancy, you can do that through that body. That has to do with what? The discussion paper at what's the name? At step 4. So after the IASB has reviewed the comments from the discussion paper, then they issue what we call the exposure draft. The exposure draft, we call it ED. As step 4, they issue what we call the discussion paper. Now this exposure draft contains the standard, everything about the standard, but in a draft form. So it contains the draft new standard or the revised standard. And this is where what's the name? The public again is required to, provide their subjective opinion about the exposure draft, the draft standard. That has to do with the 5th step. Then the 6th step that they have to consider all the comments from the discussion paper and also from the exposure draft to see whether they should go for public hearing or they should also go for what we call field test. So that has to do with taking into consideration the views and comments provided from the exposure draft and then the discussion paper. And then as step 7, the IFRS is what is published. The IFRS is published. So these are the steps that the IASB goes through in establishing or in revising a new standard.